Hey y'all, it's Heidi again. I wanted to tell you a little bit about another theory. Well, actually Dr. Fraser wanted me to tell you a little bit about another theory, but I don't mind. Today I decided to talk to you from a classroom at the school, rather than keeping my big hairy beasts out of the video at home. However, I still want to introduce you to a couple of gentlemen that are scholars in the field of communication, or were scholars in the field of communication, and their theory, coordinated management of meaning. So let's look at, first of all, introducing ourselves to W. Barnett Pearce, then Vernon Cronin, and their coordinated management of meaning theory. First, Barnett Pearce. Barnett Pearce was kind of a communication consultant in North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, and Africa. He was a faculty member at the Human and Organizational Development Program, which was housed at Felding Graduate University. And he was also a founding member of the Public Dialogue Consortium. So basically what this said to me is that nobody actually just makes money off of teaching, they have to do consulting and other side work to make more money. Okay, I'm not sure if that's reality, but wait till you see what Vernon Cronin's been up to. A couple more things though about Barnett Pearce. He was also a senior visiting fellow at Linacre College at Oxford University. He was a Fulbright scholar, or Fulbright fellow, in Argentina. He was previously on the faculty at the University of North Dakota, University of Kentucky, University of Massachusetts, and at Loyola University. It's likely at the University of Massachusetts where he met Vernon Cronin as well, because they both worked there. And Barnett Pearce's doctoral degree is from Ohio University. As with our other favorite theorist, Ernie Borman, Barnett Pearce authored a few books. His books include Making Social Worlds, a communication perspective, CMM Solutions, a field guide for consultants. This also comes with a workbook. Then there is Moral Conflict, When Social Worlds Collide, Communication and the Human Condition, which you see depicted here. He also wrote Interpersonal Communication, Making Social Worlds, Cultures, Politics, and Research Programs, and International Assessment of Practical Problems in Field Research, Development as Communication, A Perspective on India is another one of the books he wrote. He also delved into presidential and political discourse when he talked about Reagan and public discourse in America. This was used for studies in rhetoric and communication. And then finally, the book that Vernon Cronin and Barnett Pearce wrote together, called Communication, Action, and Meaning, the Creation of Social Realities. This brings us to Dr. Cronin. Dr. Cronin is currently a visiting professor at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. His doctoral degree is from the University of Illinois, Urbana, which I believe is now the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. He is also retired. He is Professor Emeritus at the University of Massachusetts. He is a senior consultant, or has been a senior consultant, at the KCC Foundation, which stands for Kensington Consultant Center in London. And he is an associate of the CMM Institute for Personal and Social Evolution. Vernon Cronin's book list is just a bit shorter. That is not to say that Vernon Cronin hasn't been widely published, hasn't been widely spoken of, and isn't well studied. It just means that really he only took time out to write one book. The book that he helped to write with Pearce is called Communication, Action, and Meaning, the Creation of Social Realities. Luckily for us, although you can't just go and buy the book on Amazon.com right now, you can go to Pearce Associates website and click right here. That takes you to a searchable version of their textbook, which was written in roughly 1980. So, now that you understand the two gentlemen behind the theory, let's look at the coordinated management of meaning. First of all, according to our friends at the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, CMM is a practical theory. Its goal is to create and teach ways of joining with others to promote new possibilities for coherent and creative communication. Of course, you know me, I really like my a first look of communication theory. So I took a look at coordinated management of meaning in that book, and they have their 50-word abstracts online. So what they had to say is that persons in conversation co-construct their social realities and are shaped by the worlds they create. Communication is a two-sided process of making and managing meaning and coordinating our actions. What we say matters because what we get is what we make. If we get the pattern right, the best possible things will happen. Of course, we know that this coordinated management of meaning theory fits into the social, cultural, and phenomenological traditions of communication theory. A little bit more on the coordinated management of meaning. There are 3 different processes that are experienced, either consciously or unconsciously, by people who are coordinating meaning and managing that meaning that they've coordinated. These 3 things are coherence, coordination, and mystery. And these can be found in an article by Barnett Pearce. We're going to look, though, quickly at what someone else had to say about that and flip over to some of our friends at Oregon State University. At Oregon State, they gave us a lot of information about the sources of meaning. They talked about the raw sensory data, which is basically just the input through your eyes, your ears, I guess mouth, nose, I don't know. I'm thinking of that song, Eyes and Ears and Mouth and Nose, you know, the one I taught my kid a while ago. Actually, not even that long ago, since he's 5. But it's the raw sensory data that we are taking in. Also, a source of meaning, or the coherence, is the content. It's the interpreted stimuli. Where are the words spoken, and how are they understood by what they're referring to? You, of course, have the speech act, which is the content that takes on more meaning, and it is further interpreted as belonging to a particular speaker. We also have episodes, which in common terms you think of as the context of the conversation. Then we look at a couple of pieces where our friends at Oregon State differ from Drs. Pearce and Vernon, but master contracts is what OSU calls it, and relationships is what Pearce and Vernon call it. Basically, it just means the relationships of the communicating participants, what each can expect of the other in this specific episode. Then again, you have the life script, or the self, again, just a differing in terminology between OSU and Pearce and Vernon. But these are the set of episodes which a person will expect that they will participate in. Where do you ultimately find yourself? What is your self-concept in this situation? And then the cultural patterns, things that are culturally set, or a culturally set of rules that govern what we understand to be the normal communication in a given episode. This is based on the culture and how we were raised. So once we have the coherence understood, then we move on to coordination. The coordination is the process by which persons attempt to call into being conjoint enactments of their stories about what is good, desirable, and or expedient. They want to prevent the conjoint enactments of their stories of what is bad, ugly, and obstructive. Coordination is the way that we fit our actions into those of other people to produce patterns. This does not necessarily entail agreeing with or understanding others, and it does not mean that we like or want the patterns that have been produced. This is just the coordination part. Moving on, though, is the mystery piece. A lot of this information can also be found by clicking the link I've included here at Pearce Associates. I believe that is still managed by Pearce's spouse, so you're certainly welcome to go and check out that site. Back to the mystery in the coordinated management of meaning. Mystery is the recognition that the world and our experience in it is more than any of the particular stories that we make, or that make it coherent, or the activities that we engage in. It is to recognize that the creative power of language is a two-edged sword. If we decide to focus on one picture of reality, we may ignore the other pictures of reality or the other ways that we may have seen it. Back to our friends at OSU, they said that persons use two types of rules to coordinate the management of meaning. They use the constitutive rules and regulative rules. With constitutive rules, it helps you understand how meaning at one level determines meaning at another level. So once we've set our base, we can move up into another meaning. And then they also have the regulative rules, and regulative rules help us to regulate what we say so that we stay within what is considered normal communication in a given episode. In other words, these rules are what we use to decide if we should say something, if we should not say something. If you've ever been in an interaction where somebody provided too much information, this is when they've stepped outside of the regulative rules within the constructs of the conversation. So coordinated management of meaning, according to the Taos Institute, where Pierce was and Vernon still is an honorary associate, they said that CMM performs an immanent critique of itself. Basically, if it does not follow these things, then it doesn't work out for coordinated management of meaning. First, it determines what is missing, what is contradictory, what is inconsistent, and what leads to unintended or unwanted outcomes. This is a way to actually analyze the conversations, the meaning being managed, and the overall theory itself. So how has the coordinated management of meaning been used? CMM has been used as a means of understanding particular conversations, as a means of understanding recurring patterns of communication. It's also been used as a guide for intervening in unwanted and unproductive patterns of communication. It's been used as a way of understanding what it means to live a life, be a person, and act in certain situations. It can be used as a guide for research. It can be used as a guide for consulting with families, organizations, governments, and schools. It can be used as a basis for teaching and coaching skilled practice, and as a way of thinking through complex and interesting situations. Right now, Jeff Gardner and I, and a couple of other of our associates, are working on using the coordinated management of meaning to understand how special needs students and Catholic schools interact, and how the Catholic schools are serving not only the special needs students, but their mainstream students as well as their parents. And how are the meanings coordinated and managed in those certain situations? That leaves only one question left. How will you use it? How will you put to good use the coordinated management of meaning?